Welcome back to the class for the one last time. In between now and the last class, we had an exam, or rather you had the exam. I've not started grading it, and because I'm going to let everything settle down and then I'll grade. I had promised to you that the exam will be straightforward and there will be no tricky questions. I hope I satisfied you in that regard. I don't think there were any tricky question, maybe a little bit on longer side, but certainly not any tricky questions. Very straightforward. And I only questioned you on what I had taught you in the class. I hope you will accept that. By the way, for some, maybe they were a little longer, everybody finished on time, maybe some took a little extra, and we didn't say to anyone to finish hurry up, none. We just waited when everybody's done. We printed the papers, and they're all in a stack with me. To let you know, there were more than one students who had finished this exam in half the time. It even surprised me. So the first exam result that came to me through the email was in 1 hour and 35 minutes, I think. The second was a minute later. So some of them had finished in half the time. So for some, it was straightforward and they could do it. So some take longer, some like to give long answers, some like to give short answers. That's okay, either way. I've not read them. We'll see what was said in those answers. Some chose to write the questions themselves in the exam and then give the answer. Well, that takes time when you write it yourself. If you ask me, there was no need for it, because if you said question number 1, it automatically, I had that question in front of me. You didn't have to spell out or write any of that. That could have easily saved you 5 to 7 minutes just writing it. But that's okay, it's done, okay? But that's okay, I'm quite pleased. Overall, I have a feeling, because I just scanned it, just get a feel, as I do always, what kind of a response have I received overall from the class, and I seem to be pleased with it. I cannot be specific. I look okay to me. I think my first feeling that it's okay, it will turn out to be correct. I hope so, okay? Now, so this is what I wanted to say. Today's lecture is not going to be a long one. We don't want to leave everything at the end of the course to be the most important part. Most 99% whatever what I set out to teach, I've already taught you. So this is just a little extra, that's all. This is about privatization. But I wanted to make some general comments before. But let me address privatization first, and then I'll make a few general comments. I don't think the whole exercise with privatization and general comments to wind down the whole thing would take more than 45 minutes. I don't anticipate that. Certainly, anything that I had to say, and I'm repeating, that had to be said. I was not certainly waiting for the last class day to say that, okay? So it's just more like a conclusion than anything else. But there was one topic that I thought, and I still think would be useful for you to learn and know about it, because it's a global phenomenon. And most of you are coming from overseas, and you might be coming across this expression, the words, and I wanted to introduce you what you might be learning overseas, or what is happening to your NOCs, the national companies, in case it comes, you come across that. And that is the word privatization. Write the word private and then ization, P-R-I-V as in Victor, private, A-T-E-I-Z-A-T-I-O-N, privatization. It's happening all over the world, particularly in the oil business. So I wanted to address that so that you become familiar with it. You may not accuse me and say, Dr. Malik never told us about it. And So what do we do? So I'm going to give you a little exposure to privatization of NOCs. Whenever we say privatization, we're referring to privatization of national oil companies in the because it's an oil course. Okay, it could be privatization of banks also and other sectors of the economy, but our focus is privatization of the banks. What does privatization mean? Again, I don't have to repeat every time. It's referring to the oil industry. Normally, not in every instance, what happens is that the government, when it seeks its independence from the past, likes to start with an oil company. And for that, they start a company. Government puts up the equity capital. They're starting. They're taking all the risks. They're learning how to do the oil business. They're in the very early stages of learning about it business. The technology is new to them. The contract types are new to them. So in the process of 2 or 3 or 5 years, they've learned something. As time progresses and they've learned more and more, and they want to move this NOCs with less government interference, because when it's with the government is running the show, and that means that everything is under the government control. But now they want to make it into the control of the private enterprise, the shareholders, for many reasons. We'll cover the reasons in a minute, why they want to do it. And that process of moving from under the control of the government to the control of the shareholders is called privatization under the American context, okay? So this is the phenomenon we see all over the world. We see that in Argentina, we see that in Brazil, in Italy, in France, and everywhere you can imagine. I can cover the whole globe, Philippines and Pakistan, and Egypt, everywhere we turn, and even Canada, we see privatization. Now, we don't see that in America, USA, because nothing is NOC here. We do not have an NOC. Everything has always been privatized, so there was no need to privatize, okay? So this is an exception. And now, having said that, you may wonder, why do we need privatization? There are many reasons. Some I accept, some I do not. You may accept them. I'll tell you what they are. You may reject them. It's your choice. My job is to give you both the ones I like and the ones I don't like the reason. That's not what I'm going to tell you. This is my life, that this is right or wrong. No, it's not a right or wrong. It's what you think, in your opinion, is correct. Well, I give you a list of several, and at the end, and these are, it's a bit of book knowledge, but incidentally, I did not come across any particular chapter in the book that you purchased in the Union, the print shop, and that addressed the privatization. Therefore, everything you're going to hear is directly from me to you now. There are many reasons or objectives of privatization, and I'm going to give you 8 or 10, maybe more. And there's one that is always, as I said, mine, you know, like in case of mergers and acquisitions, I said survival. Remember the survival story? That was my thought behind why mergers and acquisitions happen. The same way, when I finish the list that is in the books, then I'll give you what I think is my reason. Now, you may not like it, but I'll give you at least the benefit of learning what I have to share about privatization, okay? My thinking. Now I'm going to go through the list. One is to raise cash, right? Objective of privatization, number one is to raise cash. What does that mean? Very simply, it means to raise money, capital. The government would like to have some capital, money. They either, to run the government, you need revenue. They have to increase the taxes, and if that happens, it becomes a very big problem for the government to stay in power. The people will throw them out. So the other way to raise cash to run their business with the government is to sell shares in the national company, and that way people will buy the shares and the government will receive revenue. So that's in lieu of increasing the taxes. That's one reason. Not true in all cases, but in some cases, that happens to be the case. Sometimes especially when the government wants looking for foreign exchange. Now, many countries that I'm talking about here, when they start the NOCs, they don't have much foreign exchange. And if they're looking for more foreign exchange, they open up the shares. Now they're selling the shares of NOC. Okay. And I'll tell you what are the different ways to privatize. That'll be the next chapter after I finish the reasons why we need privatization. Okay. They may advertise it globally that we are privatizing. If you want to buy shares, just like a public company under the American context, go to the SEC, we'll all that good stuff, and you can buy our shares. And in lieu of that, we want to charge you so many dollars per share. Now, having said that, in that case, if there's a foreign investor and he's interested in your company, the NOCs, he may want to what? Buy the shares of the NOC and bring in dollars, euros, yen, hard currency. So this is one way the government can earn foreign exchange. Okay, not a bad idea. The third reason for privatization is to spread ownership, spread ownership in the community. Ownership. Well, originally only one owner, the government. Now, I think it would be a good idea if the government would want to spread ownership, share in the risk for other private investors, okay? Let them have a board of directors, give them knowledge to you also, share in the operations, and that is by selling shares in the stock market through the SEC process. Remember, the SEC always has to come into the picture. Securities and Exchange Commission. The government can spread the ownership. There could be ads saying, we want to nationalize this oil company. Would you like to buy the shares? Well, that is true. And if 100 people, 1,000 people, 5,000 people end up buying the share, you've spread the ownership. Okay, that's another way to reason for privatization. Another, I hope it's making sense. I'll just pause for about 30 seconds so that you can catch up and write whatever you're writing. Reason number 4 is to reduce government subsidies. Subsidy, help. What happens? In the initial stages, the government has to infuse, bring in capital money of their own. Government money goes into the running the operation of the NOC, what is called through subsidy, the helping. And so after a while, the government wants to get out of the helping constantly the national company. The hope one day the national company would be big enough, strong enough, doing well, that they don't have to subsidize it, bring their own money, the government's money, and let the people subscribe to it, buy their shares, and therefore the government subsidy, help, financial help here will get to be less and less. So that's not a bad objective either. That'll be number 4. The next one, I have a different list. I'm adding some and taking some out as I'm going. Is similar to number 2, which is raise foreign exchange. The next one says something like that. The objective is to encourage foreign investment. Same as number 2. So you can take either or both as objectives. The next could be attract new technology. Is it true in every case? Of course not. Not every one of these reasons or objectives apply in every instance. That goes without telling you that. It's common sense. And attract, well, if you got, we'll talk about how they privatize. Let us say, if this is one of the ways, and I'm going to go through it in a minute later on, that if one oil company, another big oil company buys into your national oil company, a big oil company from overseas, or maybe international oil company, buys into you, and I'll give you examples in a minute, okay? So this oil company may have the technology that by buying your NOC shares, they're bringing in what? Their new technology, okay? If the government wants to get new technology, they can ask these other companies, generally they're foreign companies, they're global, very knowledgeable in technology, that you buy or you join our company. And in the process, the government or the NOC will receive new technology and the knowledge that goes with it. Okay. Number 9 and no, mine is 9. I say whatever numbers, you probably 6 or 7. I forget what it is. And the next one, the two come together. I call it 9 and 10, but never mind. You're the 6 or 7, whatever number you have. And I'll talk about it together. The next one is a good one. I like it. To improve economic performance of the company. Say, if your numbering is say A is to improve the economic performance of the NOCs. And how do they do that is the question. Sounds very nice. They do it by introducing the depoliticization, depolitics. You know politics? Depoliticization. I'll spell it. D-E, let me write it down in case you have difficulty spelling it. Do it again. To introduce the depoliticization of economic decisions. Write it down. I'm going to explain that. It's very simple. To introduce the depoliticization of economic decisions. So the two, meaning A and B, I'll repeat again. They come together. One overlaps the other. A says to improve economic performance of the company. There's a reason for privatization. But how do they do it? By introducing depoliticization of economic decisions. I'm particularly fond of this reason. My preference very much leans towards that. What does that mean in real life? Let's talk about real life. NOCs, as I said in the introduction, are under the control of the government. Government is a political animal. There are a lot of politics that go into the government. Of course, there is a cadre. There are people who work permanently for the government. Every government has permanent employees, all of them. But there are above them are political appointees everywhere in the world. Example, political appointees are the government employees who are there for 30, 40 years. You don't remove them, you don't fire them. They're there, they're permanent employees. Okay. But above them generally are political appointees, the ones that are political, they have no idea what is oil business. They're politicians. But they've done good favor to the president or the prime minister. In many countries, they're called ministers. We in America call them secretaries. Same thing. There's a minister of foreign affairs, there's a minister of defense, there's a minister of agriculture, and minister of treasury. And there are, I think we have 14 or 15 of them. Or Secretary of Defense, same thing. Recently, this is a huge, biggest government in the world, 14 or 15, I think, are secretaries. Recently, in the last week, less than 7 days, I'm not going to name the country, a new government has been formed. A new government has been formed last week. It's a poor country. It is a poor country. They constantly ask IMF, the World Bank, please help us, please help us. And guess what? When they formed the government last week, we have what, 14 or maybe 15 ministers, secretaries. That government had 33 ministers. I don't know what they're doing. What for? They're politicians. So the government wants to, it's like to me, if you frankly speak, it's like a bribe. The government wants to, hey, you help me in politics, get me some votes, I'll give you a ministry. You get me some votes, I'll give you. So they end up, paying back time. You got me 1,000 votes, I'll give you a Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Treasury, Ministry of Natural Resources, Ministry of. So they are just passing on ministry. There's a personal kingdom here. Can you imagine? When you have a ministry, he wants to have a deputy minister. He wants to have a big entourage. He wants to have an office space. God, can you imagine how much it costs to run a ministry? But that is like almost like a bribe. The chief minister doesn't care. He's paying back because next election he wants the same people to come and vote for him or for them to help him draw other people to the vote. He doesn't care what about the national company is making money or losing money. He wants his votes. This is a fact of life. Whether I like it or not is not important. We live in a real world. Of course, nobody can ever accept that, leave alone me. But that's how it goes. So these politicians, where do they get the votes? That got the ministry. Real life. They then go into the constituents, in that area from where they're getting the votes, and they promise the people who are going to vote for them, I'll help you, give me the vote, I'll get the guy to help me, and I'll. So here comes a person, it happens early in developing countries, 90% developing countries, we have that problem. I mean, mostly, I don't know exactly 90 or 80%. So what happens? This fellow from his constituents, from his district, from where he's got the vote, comes to the minister and said, remember me? You asked me when you were running for votes? Yeah. I got you, remember the 3,000 votes? Yeah. Now I want you to do me a favor. You promise you will. I want you to take these 6 people from my district, my people, and get them a job in the NOC. Because the NOC reports to you. You're the Minister of Oil. The minister is going to write a letter to the president of NOC, appoint 6 people, John, Bill, Harry, and Bob. He is not going to say, do you have a budget? That's real world. He just said, I want you to appoint. If you want to keep your job, president, appoint these guys. This is not how it should work. I know you say, how is it? But that's real life, folks. I'm bringing you into real life today. It's unimaginable what happens in those countries. So what? He appoints those 6 people, the president, because he wants to keep his job. And the minister is happy because he can go back and tell his people that I got the 6 people you wanted me to put. So vote for me again next time. I'll get you another 10 people there in the job. No connection whether these 6 people are going to sit there and twiddle their thumb, Is there work for them? Is there a budget for them? What are they going to do? Suddenly they have a job. Does it fit them? Do they have a resume? Do they have a background? Political. I know some of you might be astonished. More than astonished, and I know that. I'm not here to astonish. I want to bring you to real life here, folks. Terrible. That's how it is. I can't hide behind all of this. So what happened? All the decisions are not based on economics always in NOCs. Not for economic. They're made on political decisions brought in by the man at the top who's a politician. He became there where he is because of votes that he got. So decisions should be based on what? Rate of return. What will I get if I invest in this project versus if I invest in that project? I teach a full semester course in investment decision making in the petroleum industry. I hope you will take that course. How do major oil companies, Exxon, Chevron, how do they invest the capital? It's for engineers like you. You need to know that. It's fundamental to your knowledge. And the same knowledge you can use to make your own investment when you make all those big bucks. Same principle that the chairman of Exxon uses to invest Exxon money, you can use the same ideas how to invest your big salary that you're going to get. It's a personal benefit. I call it a course on investment decision making in the oil industry all over the world. I've taught that course more than anything else I've taught to thousands and thousands of folks in the oil industry, including chairmen and all. What are the 5-6 methods they use? Simple. You just talk to John Olson, the chairman. Say, Dr. Olson, I'm just giving you an idea. We want to learn that course on how to invest in the oil and gas. It's an economics course. Investment decision making is extremely useful course. He might say, well, okay, let's see if I can manage to squeeze Dr. Malik's hand and see if he can teach that also. I don't know. But that's not for me to decide. That's for the chairman and for him to decide. I'm not saying you should go to him. I'm not saying that. I'm just introducing you to some of the things that are available and should be made available in the department, because fundamental to any petroleum engineer's job is how is his job going to affect the investment in the company? How is his job going to make a little money for the company? That's number one, right? Of course, we need technology, reservoir, and all that good stuff, production, engineering, logging, and of course we do. Investment decision making, all in this. So that's the point I'm making. The minister who sent 6 people is not looking at the economics of what they're going to do. It is a political decision. So that's what I'm saying. That's my favorite, as you can tell. Take the politics out of decision-making. Use politics, the decision-making where to invest in your NOC. Should I drill here or here or here? Should not be a political decision, folks. It should be based on economics and technical reasons. Don't you agree? But when it's an NOCs, politics takes a backseat. Again, sounds not real. I know it does not. I think you were saying, no, Dr. Malay, it's not that. Well, okay, it's up to you. Wait till 5 years and come back and tell me what you found out. Please be my guest, write to me, okay? So that to me is a good enough reason why I would privatize, because when it becomes a private company, you have the shareholders, because if you buy the share, it becomes NOCs, you're a share. And when you're a shareholder, you're the owner. Remember equity ownership? As an owner, what do you want? You don't want politics. You want rate of return. How much if I put $100, will I make more money here? $2 on every $100 or $5? This project is $2, there's $5. Because the share, that is what the board of directors is looking at, not politics. They have nothing to do with politics. They were elected by the shareholders, not voters in the street over there. I hope you get my point. Take the politics that can only happen if you take politics out of decision making. Keep it based on economics and technical reasons. Enough said. Well, there are many NOCs tend to be sometimes very poorly run. So if you privatize it and the shareholders and the board of directors want to make sure you make money, they take out the unnecessary dead, we call it a deadbeat, those folks who are just sitting there in the office and just twiddling the thumb and looking busy, but they're not producing any financial reward for the shareholders. We call it deadbeat. This is an American expression, okay? So if you take out all of the useless, so-called useless employees, that means all the poorly run state-owned companies would start running more efficiently. Okay. But then there is my reason. No book has that. You take it for whatever you think it's worth. You may not like it. I'm not here trying to make you to please you or not to upset you. All I've done the entire semester, please, every single thing I've taught you in this entire semester was anything my granddaughter can understand. She's turning 5 years old. She's not even going to school yet. Maybe nursery with the first. Can you tell me, is there anything that I've taught you that basic 3rd, 5th grade? Because I was talking about a person who knows this subject, he can take, okay, let me give you an example, a real example of a Nobel laureate. Across the street from our department is the physics department. The big tall building, very high, is physics, astronomy, and math building. That is very high. That's the only building, that tall building, was there when I came to go to school in 71. There were other buildings, but there were 4 or 5 stories, but this is the only tall one before my time. And there was a Nobel Prize winner in physics who died very recently. I think his name was Weintraub. And he was not alone in the Nobel Prize in physics. He was with another gentleman named Salam, S-A-L-A-M. So together, they got the Nobel Prize 30 years ago. And I was reading about this Nobel laureate, Salam, in an introduction. What was his claim to fame in the introduction to Nobel? Salam, or the person who was introducing him, said, Dr. Salam, Professor Salam, I think at the London School of Economics. He was not here, he was teaching in London School of Economics, I think. And both of them, or Cambridge, or one of the British universities. And both he and the Nobel laureate in the physics department across the street, they worked together on this, whatever physics theory they were doing, working on, and got the Nobel Prize. And they said in the introduction, Professor Salam's great thing about him was he took very complex questions, well, what physics maybe, and reduced them to very simple thoughts. That is a great attribute. I'm not comparing myself to the Nobel laureate, don't get me wrong. I'm just a very humble soul. So I've taken anything mysterious about finance. Is there finance anything mystery in your life anymore? I hope not. If it is, that I have failed, I would say. My whole point was, in the few weeks or the few lectures that I had, I would take them. Are you going to be experts in finance? No. Was that my intent to make you an expert? No. My intent was to take the mystery out of it and for you to have enough knowledge to ask intelligent questions. That's all. That was the desire. That was my objective. I hope I have succeeded. I don't know. Whether you're the judge, I'm not the judge for what myself. Nobody can judge oneself. So having said that, my reason for privatization is simple as that, which I'm going to explain. How can you deny what I'm going to say? You do your job and let me do my job. That's my reason. Is there any soul on earth who can say that's wrong? I'll repeat. You do your job. Please let me do my job. That's it. That's the only reason I believe in for privatization. You say, Dr. Malik, come on, like all your storytelling, this is another mysterious story you're telling us now. That's it. You do your job, let me do my job. But you can fault with that. If you're a cook, don't start learning about carpentry. If you can't carpentry, don't go into the kitchen and start cooking. You'll make a mess. Every dish you make will be not edible. Nobody will eat it. If you're cooking, you start putting window in, but it'll end up like a door. Don't try that. You do your job of cooking, let him do his job of putting windows. Simple. Again, 5th grade. Now, what's the point? No answer. You say, Dr. Malik, come on, tell us, what are you talking about? We don't know what you're talking about, windows and meals here. I know I'm talking about windows and meals because you can eat, you can understand me because you eat it 3 times a day. I covered it here in this class before. SEC, government. Government has a job. Remember the story I said? Is to, number one responsibility, why I pay taxes. Remember that? The government will provide me security. Not run the oil business is not your job through NOC. That is not your job, government. Your job is to give me, provide me security, and that's it. You do your job. Let me do my job. Who am I? The business community. Let the business people do the job of being a businessman. Let them run the business of oil or steel or agriculture or banking or pharmacy or whatever business they want to get into. That's their job. How do you provide security? My job, no, to run the oil business, to run, as I say, pharmacy or anything, or car manufacturing, who knows, Tesla, whatever. That to me is a simple, baby can understand that. You do your job, I'll go run the business because I know what to do it, I've done it. If I lose it, it's my problem. And you provide security. When you are supposed to provide, and you go into the business world, you're going to lose every time you get into the business world. That's what happens in NOCs many times. The critical decision, they don't know what you're doing, they don't know what technology is, how they run the oil business, and they spend money and subsidies, and they lose every time. That's the government making a mess of the NOC. Maybe you like that answer. I don't know. I'm not here to please you or to displease you. My is to open your mind. All that I do is open the mind. That's all. That's all. No more. Bit unusual course. I know that, but I'm an unusual person. And I'm proud of that in a humble way. Now, let me address the last thing now about privatization before I wrap it up, this lecture today. I didn't even realize it was going to take that long, but I get carried away and go expand and expand and expand, hoping you'll get the message. Hoping you'll get the message. That's all my desire. You get the message. How do we privatize? How do we move the company from the government and the public, meaning the people? Because public can be confusing, the overseas or domestic. Most people know only one, believe me. As I travel around the world, most people know of only one way to privatize NOCs or pharmacies or agriculture sector or banking sector or airline sector or any sector. There's one. No, there are more than one. Let me start with one. By public offering of shares. One method is by offering the shares to the public, number one, spread ownership that way. In this method, SEC, you have to go to the SEC, get the prospectus, the usual thing to start. So you float the shares, you can have, firm commitment or best effort, all the things about starting a public company in the American context. So you can offer me sell the shares to the public. The advantage is it would have vast shareholders, of course. That's one way. That is how most of them are done anyway. And that's mostly what people know about. And the second one is private sale of shares. One is go to the public, which will add in the newspaper. The other one is not to go to the public. Like a private place. Remember, some of the things that you and I we talked about in the semester may become handy now. You might find them, they're applicable even this situation in the last day of the lecture. Private sale of shares, offering sale of shares, meaning what? You don't sell the shares to the public. You don't go to the SEC. In private placement, you don't go to the SEC, do you? No, you don't. Private placement, you go to one or two other companies maybe, or individuals, and you say, or investors. You say, look here, John, or the company X, big company, we want to, would you like, please, and then you negotiate. We want to we would like for you to join us, please. So would you like to buy into our shares, into our company, by the way, well, you can sit in the room and negotiate. You can have 2 or 3 different companies bidding one against the other in private. You don't tell the other what the other fellow is offering. So you can go to individual companies, 3, 4, 5 to private places. So you're not offering to the public at large, to the newspaper, you're offering to a select group. And if you happen to find a company that says, okay, we'll bring in $200 million, we'll be a partner, we'll be a shareholder. They're called strategic investors. Strategic, they were strategic investor. They would be referred to in the industry as a strategic investor, okay? I wish I was sitting in the class where I would ask this question. Sometime I wish I was there and get your reaction. Number 3 method. If nobody wants to buy your shares, you're a public company, you're an NOC. I have to be careful, public in the context of a foreign company, overseas. I have to be careful because public here, as I said on day 1, means something different. What if nobody wants to get involved in your business? They don't want your share, they don't want to be private, they're nobody. What can you do to privatize? As I said, I wish I could see a reaction from you to answer. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Nobody wants your shares? Can you shoot the guy and say, you got to buy my shares? I'll kill you? You're liable for murder. You've got a big problem. No, you don't kill shares because they don't kill people because they don't buy your shares. If nobody wants to buy your shares, the answer is do not sell your shares. It's nothing. Einstein's theory, Newton's law of physics. Remember Newton's law of physics? It's not Socrates' philosophy here. Or Solomon the prophet's wisdom. Nobody wants your company shares. Don't sell your shares. What else can I say? Let it sink in. Let it go in. It's not a typical lecture. You listen, I know that. Well, then you still want to privatize, but nobody wants to buy your share, then don't sell your share, then what do? Answer. Asset liquidation. Liquid, liquid, L-I-Q-U-I-D, liquidation, D-A-T-I-O-N, asset liquidation, liquidation. To convert assets into liquid assets. You'll understand when I finish. For example, early on in this course, I said, cash is liquid. If somebody says, how much cash you have in your pocket, you say $10. Well, if you want to impress them, you say, I've got liquid assets worth $10. Cash is liquid assets. Assets. Liquidity is converting something into cash. If you sell the building, you're converting its liquidation. The building sold for $1 million, so you convert the building into cash. That's liquidation. In this case, if you can't sell the shares, then you don't sell the shares, then you sell the assets. So maybe, for example, Peru did this. You take the company and you say, well, Mr. in the public, we want to sell assets. We have a refinery. Peru did it called Talara refinery, never mind the name. That we have this fancy refinery here in Peru. We just want to sell that. That's an asset. We have a pipeline here belonging to the NOC. We want you to sell the pipeline only. You want to buy the pipeline or you want to buy the refinery? So you take individual assets and sell them separately. That way, hopefully, you'll dispose of the company, get cash in return. If the objective is to receive cash, that's one way. Either you can sell shares or you can sell asset, liquidate the assets. Let me slow down so you can write it down. Another way, reorganization into component parts. Reorganization into component parts. Reorganize the organization, reorganize the company into parts, separate. I'll give you an example. Because the best way to do is to give an example. I've always done that throughout the course. In that case, this is also called fragmentation. You know, fragment to break down. Break down is to fragment. Break it down. English word. Fragmentation. Reorganize into component parts means fragment, to break down the company into parts, smaller parts. Some of the Chinese companies are doing that. Let me explain what that is. The big companies, huge companies, $100 billion company, it's very difficult to buy anybody, for people to buy $100 billion company. Where you can find the buyer for that? So you say, well, let's take, let's break this big, huge company into 5 parts, 5 smaller companies. One company, we'll call it A, which is exploration company. From the big, we'll take out the separate component. One part will be exploration, separate company. Another part we take out and we call it pipeline. All the pipeline going to this company. Or to the big company, you got exploration and then become 2. And the pipeline. The third might be only we're selling the natural gas part. So there'll be 3. Refinery, pipeline, and on. So you can end up breaking the big, huge company into smaller subsidiary companies. And then individually, each one of the subsidiaries, you liquidate, you sell share, depending on which one you want. For one, you can sell it, privatize through liquidation. The other one, you can do it through public offering. So this would, make it easier for you to find overall many buyers that can offer you a reasonably good price. One more. Write it down, what I've just told you. I'll give you another one, then we wrap it up. Number, new private investment. New private investment in state-owned companies. I read it again. New private investment in state-owned companies. New private state-owned company. New private investment in state-owned companies. This would be nice to, in case of a national, state-owned company, national. This will be a useful way, and I'll explain. Give you an example. when the national company is lacking capital money, investment. They don't have enough money, but they want to get some more money. So they don't sell anything like that. They don't sell shares, they don't sell assets, but they want money. New investment. So they ask another company if they want to, what happens? In this case, the NOC floats, issues more shares, additional shares, and says, do you want to buy this new shares? We've added another 50,000 shares, new shares, new investment. So Mr. X company, would you like to buy the 50,000 shares? New investment. So they will have the old company that still exists as it was, and then short on cash now they're going to, if somebody buys that, they'll have additional cash and additional investment. So together they'll be well funded. You can have that. I'll give you an example, it'll help you understand. OMV is the national oil company of Austria. OM as in Mary, V. It's a long name, German name, long, but nobody in the world can pronounce what they are. But we call it OMV, National Oil Company of Austria. And I've lectured to them, by the way, more than once. I love going to Vienna, beautiful city, and thank God they pick up my hotel bill because it's one of the most expensive cities I've been to in my life, but beautiful. But I can't afford it. The OMV picks up the bill, I'm happy. So OMV wanted new private investment. So they invited ADNOC. ADNOC is the national oil company of Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi, you know, heard of Abu Dhabi? Is one of the sheikhdoms of UAE, Abu Dhabi. ADNOC is Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, ADNOC. So ADNOC invested some money in OMV, and ADNOC ended up getting, I think, 2 members on the board of directors of OMV for policy making of OMV. So that is another way. If you want more money, here ADNOC came along and infusion added more capital, gave more capital to run the business of OMV. So here are like, I think 5 ways of methods of privatization. That should be enough. Now, take a deep breath. Now the concluding remarks. No, just has nothing to do with the course as such. No finance things that can be discussed. Just kind of goodbye kind of a thing. So I thought it'd be nice to maybe leave a little early, give you a little breathing time. Okay, and that's your summer vacation. As far as I'm concerned, you're loose. You can start your summer vacation. So you can't blame me that I got you delayed. But having said that, let me say this, and it's coming directly from me to you from the heart. I've enjoyed, and I repeat the word, enjoyed teaching this course. You said, Dr. Malik, why do you say you enjoyed? I'll tell you why. I always give because I feel, I could be wrong, because I'm not asking you to answer this. I could be wrong. You can say, no, why are you enjoying? I'll tell you why. Because I feel, and I felt all throughout the semester of 4 months, that whatever I was teaching was useful for you, was beneficial for you. That gives me immense pleasure. I teach for my own pleasure, really. Life without being useful is not worth living. I don't know about you. You're young. You've got a long life ahead of you. Please live long and keep that in mind, what I'm saying to you. At this late day in my life, I only live so I'm useful to somebody. God gave me this opportunity. Even at my age, I was talking about, I'm very personal, I get very emotional about it. I'm not a fuddy-duddy professor. I said, well, maybe God give me good health. Maybe, I think that is not maybe, God is kind, because maybe he wants to get some work out of me. That's all. This is what I did. This is the part I enjoy. That maybe it's my good health because God bestowed me, so I could lecture every day, every time for 2 hours. That's a pleasure. For you, I don't know, certainly for me, okay? As far, and I always say, it's my mission, folks, mission. Goes beyond few dollars. Anyway, that's a separate point. I've enjoyed teaching it. I hope you benefited from whatever I said. Neither in this course nor the agreements course. I hope you'll take the agreements too, because that I'm teaching like the business side of oil. That is a business side. This is a business side. So it adds up to like a mini MBA in maybe in 2 semesters, 2 courses or 3 courses. Taking out the other things, the management skills and accounting and all the other good stuff. No, I just went straight to the point, which I thought you might find useful as petroleum engineer. So it's like a mini MBA focused was, especially with the other course, and they together will make a nice combination. Why would they make a nice combination, you ask me, and I'll tell you why. Because this is nothing new, I've said it everywhere. To get a job anywhere, of any kind, you must have the skill for that job. Right? If you want to be a pharmacist, you must be a qualified pharmacist. If you want to be an engineer, you should be a qualified engineer. To get into the company, into the organization, you have to, if you want to be jolly, you have to have credentials. Here's my jolly master's degree. Here's my chemical engineering master's degree. Here's my petroleum engineering master's degree. Here's my whatever. Once you get in, whether it is petroleum engineering or chemical, it does not matter. Then all those fun thing you're learning in this university, which I hope you are paying a lot of attention. The professor is so diligent, working so hard to teach you all the interesting things about technical things and reservoir and logging. As you progress in the company, you don't see the president of the company looking at the log, do you? No, Exxon's president couldn't look at the log up. He'll look at it upside down. He would know what a log looks like. It's not his job. The president of the company would not know how to drill a well. It's not his job. He's got people who did 80,000 people working for him doing that. So what is it that I'm telling you now? As you progress in the company, these kind of courses, like the business side, comes more handy, comes into the picture, like the course of finance, course agreement, and other similar courses. They take over. Getting in, you need to be a reservoir engineer, equations and all. But to go up, slowly but surely, you'll have other reservoir engineers working for you. You become a manager, and there are bigger managers. Finally, reservoir engineering goes on the side when you're a big man. Then how do we do the contract? How do we negotiate? I teach negotiation in the course. The government of Nigeria, the government of Ghana, the government of Ivory Coast, how do we negotiate? What would make a good agreement? All these things are handy when you get to the senior position. And I'm looking forward to you becoming there. So whenever you reach that, what I call the senior position, just drop me a line. I wonder if I'll be alive. I doubt it, but if I'm not, you'll add a few years. If I'm alive, you'll probably add a few more years. Just say, Dr. Malik, we hope your health is okay. I vaguely remember you're a strange teacher, which would not be wrong. You were an unusual teacher but there are things that I learned from you. Not all, but some of the things I found very useful and they helped me. Thank you, Dr. You don't even have to say thank you. That will make my day. I hope I've not wasted your time in this semester. I hope I've not. I hope that you will do, and I pray that you do well in your life. As I told you in another lecture, I hope what I told you probably, I make what I tell you and the other guys in the class. Nothing will please me more than to see your success. And I mean it. Nothing will please me more than to see your success. Remember that. And I want to hear about from you, not every day, maybe after 10 years. I wish I could say, send me your photograph because I don't know what you look like anyway. He said, I was in a class or whatever year this is, I haven't lost track. But at least you've seen my picture. What a good looking guy I am. Don't tell anybody, okay? Thank you very much. I pray for your safety. COVID is not over, sadly. So please be safe. I urge you to be safe. It looks like it's over, it's not over, okay? I want to see you in good health. Hope I can teach you next semester in the spring, in person. My very unusual circumstances. I would have died to have been in campus to teach you. I'd love to be there and teaching you and touch you and hug you, kind of a teacher I am. I could not. Very serious. I don't want to go into details, circumstances that I had no control over. And this is the only thing I could do is to teach you at least online. My best wishes to all of you and good luck. Have a wonderful summer. Thank you and best of luck to you.